We'll call to order the City of Douglasville's City Council regular meeting for Monday, which is today, December the 19th. And our invocation will be held, given to us by Pastor Delbert R. Watkins of Larger Than Life Church Ministries. And after that, we will be led in our Pledge of Allegiance by the Mayor Pro Tem, who is Mr. Larry Yockey. So I ask that you would please stand at this time as we prepare for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Our Father and God, we praise you and we thank you for this opportunity to gather together and to transact your business for our community. Lord, we pray that you will lead and guide each of our hearts and our minds, that we will reach conclusions that are conducive with your will for our community and what is best for us. We pray that you will bless our mayor, bless our city council, bless all of the citizens of this great county of Douglasville and this great city of Douglasville, and that you will have your way in this place on tonight and in each and every life that is under the sound of my voice. It is in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem and Pastor Watkins. We appreciate you doing the invocation. I will go over just a few announcements and presentations. We will, as far as it relates to procedure, so that we'll be able to run through our meeting tonight in an orderly fashion. We're excited to have everyone here. And we did do this on Thursday, and so we will have the committee chair will handle that committee and give you instructions at that time. We know that a lot of you are here for the public hearing portion of one of the agenda items, and so we would ask that you would at this time silence all of your electronic devices, if you have any, your cell phones and iPads and such, and that you would put those in silent mode or turn them off while we're having a meeting so that will not be disruptive. Courts have overturned decisions by having outbursts and clapping and all of that, so we ask that you will not have any of that to be disruptive to the meeting as well. And if you would like to give comments during the portion that we open it up for public comments and for the public hearing, please give your name and address clearly at the podium, and we'd ask you to come to the podium, give your name and address for the record. There is a form that you should have filled out. It's a green form out on that desk. If you'd fill that form out and hand it to the city clerk, Ms. Vicki Acker, to my right, and state your name and address for the record. And we ask that you would please refrain from any personal attacks on employees, the staff, or elected officials, or anyone that's representing your particular development or item. We had a couple of close calls last week, and we do not want anyone walking the line to be personally attacking anyone. So if that happens, we unfortunately will have to gavel you down and ask you not to do that. So that's all the announcements I believe that we have, and we'll go on with the meeting. So the first item is minutes for approval. The minutes of the legislative work session of December 1st, 2016, and the regular meeting of December 5th, 2016. I open the floor for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you. I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and second to approve the minutes for legislative work session December 1st to 2016 to December 5th. Are there any questions or comments or corrections to the minutes? Thank you. Not hearing any. All of those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. The ayes have it. The consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and second to approve the consent agenda. Are there any questions or comments or anything related to approving the consent agenda at this time? Thank you. All of those in favor, it's been properly moved in second. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. The ayes have it. Okay, we'll move on from the consent agenda to, messing up on my screen, public safety. I should know this by heart, huh, Councilman Siegel? Public Safety Committee, and that's chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Larry Yockey.
No items tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Community and Economic Development Committee, that's chaired by Councilman Mark Adams.
No items tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Planning and Development Committee, that's chaired also by Councilman Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have several items tonight under Planning and Development Committee. We'll start with item A, 22-16-44. We'll be holding a public hearing and consider a request for a change in zoning from DCD base zones of R2 Single-Family Residential Detached District and R3 Single-Family Detached Residential District to R2 Single-Family Detached Residential District for .99 plus or minus acres for the property located in parcel 076418200006 in land lot 764, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 6. That application is made by Lely May LaCroix. Since this is a public hearing, we will allot on this item 1 hour. We will have comment by anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application, and then anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the application. That total time will be 30 minutes each, with 5 minutes per speaker. If you have new information concerning the item, we would welcome that. If it is information that we have heard on Thursday night, then please do not be repetitive, as we want to be conscious and responsible with everyone's time. Ms. Acker, are we ready? Okay, we will start then with anyone that would like to speak in favor of this application that has not already spoken or that has new information. And is Ms. LaCroix with us? Okay, thank you. Anyone here to speak for this application? Ladies, if you would please, as you approach, as you begin to talk, just for the viewing audience and for spelling purposes, I hope you've turned in your green sheet. Just give us your name and address for the record, please, speaking into the mic.
Nita Gale, 230 Plantation Meadows Court, Marietta, Georgia.
Thank you.
I'm May LaCroix. Okay. I'm May LaCroix. I live at 206 Vineyard Drive, Dallas, Georgia.
Thank you very much, ladies. Is there any new information that you need to share with us concerning this?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there anyone here that would have information that they would like to provide in opposition to this? Okay, are there any questions that the council would have? Any questions or concern concerning this item? If not, I will close the public hearing at this time for item number 22-16-44, and I'll make a motion that we approve that item.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and second to approve item 22-16-44. Yes, sir. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. The item has been approved.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moving on to item B, item 22-16-45. Hold a public hearing and consider a request to amend the development text for Gateway Village to relieve the requirement to comply with local stream bumper requirements for lots 11 through 22 and to relieve the requirement to build tennis courts for 79.89 acres plus or minus for properties located land lot 636, 637, 551, Districts 1 and 18, Section 3 and 2, application made by Matthew Cotu. As we stated on Thursday night, holding a public hearing, planning to do that, the applicant has requested that this item be tabled. There were some advertising issues that they had with correct information in their request, and so we will take, at this time, we will make a motion that we table item 22-16-45, and we would table that to the meetings of January 12th and January 17th, 2017.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and seconded to table item 22-16-45 to the January 12th and 2017 meetings. Are there any questions or comments as it relates to this item? Thank you. All of those in favor of approving this item to be tabled, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item C, item 22-16-46. Hold a public hearing, consider a request for change in zoning for IH Heavy Industrial District to IH Heavy Industrial District with a special land use permit for refuse or garbage disposal recycling, composting, and landfills for 1.12 plus or minus acres for the property located at 8729 South Flat Rock Road, located land lot 190, District 2, Section 5, Parcel 41. Application made by Adam Glasgow. Is there someone here to represent this item? Come forward if you would, sir, and please remember to state your name and address for the record. Have you filled out the green sheet?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Adam Glasgow, 8729 South Flat Rock Road.
Thank you, sir.
There was a little bit of confusion at the last meeting. I just wanted to let you know that I spoke with our neighbor, and I think we clarified everything and made sure they had my contact information.
Okay. Is there anyone else here? Is that all that you had to say, Adam, about the, okay. Is there anyone else that has additional information speaking in favor of the application? If not, is there anyone here that would speak in opposition to the application? Please come forward. If not, I'll close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments of council? Hearing none. Item 22-16-46, I'd make a motion to approve with the special stipulation that we are speaking of, we are not speaking of refuse or garbage disposal, composting and landfills, although that is included in that part of our ordinance. This is specifically for recycling. So my motion would be 22-16-46, approval to continue that recycling business.
Thank you so much.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and second to approve item 22-16-46 with the special stipulations as mentioned by the chairman for this property for reuse, recycling. Are there any additional questions or comments from the council members?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Was there also a time limitation on that, or is it just perpetual?
Was there a special,
We had not shown a time limit on this application. I know this was a renewal, was it not, already? And we were not planning to have a time limit in the future.
okay. So there isn't a time limit. Are there any other comments or questions as it relates to this item? Thank you. Not hearing any. All those in favor of approving item 22-16-46, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Thank you. The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moving on to item D, item 22-16-47. Hold a public hearing and consider a request for change in zoning from R2 Single Family Detached Residential District to R2 Single Family Detached Residential District with a special land use permit for a church or place of worship for .44 plus or minus acres for the property located at 8011 Eastfield Drive, land lot 824, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 36. Application made by Iglesia Cristiana de Douglasville del Movimiento Misionero Mundial Incorporated. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of that application? Please come forward. Sir, have you completed your green sheet and given it to the city clerk?
Okay, my name is Rudy Castillo. I'm the
Pardon me,
pastor.
sir. Have you completed your green sheet and given it to the city clerk as far as speaking?
Oh, no.
Okay, I'll allow you to go ahead and speak if you would go there when you finish and then do that for her, please, okay?
Okay,
So-
yes. I'm the pastor of the church, and I'm just here to renew our land permit for our church.
Thank you, sir. Could you please give me your name and address for the
My
record?
name is Rudy Castillo, and the address is 8011 Eastfield Drive, Douglasville.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Okay. Hearing none or seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? If so, please come forward. If not, we'll close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments of council? Hearing none, I will make a motion for item 22-16-47 for approval.
Second.
Thank you, sir. It's been properly moved and second to approve item 22-16-47 with a special stipulation for a church or place of worship. Are there any other questions or comments? Is there a time frame?
Wasn't this also a renewal? Yes, there was no time frame.
Thank you. Anticipating your question, Mr. Siegel. Okay, is there renewal? Not having any additional questions or comments, all those in favor of approving item 22-16-47, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Thank you, the ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
Item 22-16-48, hold a public hearing and consider a request for change in zoning from CN Neighborhood Commercial District to CN Neighborhood Commercial District with a special land use permit for a personal services massage for .45 plus or minus acres for the property located at 8697 Hospital Drive in Land Lot 50, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 107, application made by Mary Lou Ross. Is Ms. Ross here? Good evening, Ms. Ross.
Good evening. Mary Lou Ross, 4147 North Quail Drive, Douglasville, 30135.
Thank you for being here, Ms. Ross. Do you have any additional information you'd like to provide us with concerning your application?
No, not really. There was a question by Madam Mayor about the services period. I wanted to clarify that I work with therapeutic, meaning that I work with cancer patients, fibromyalgia, frozen shoulder, and most medical situations.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on behalf of the application in favor?
You didn't have a time frame?
Also, that I was asking for an extension from 2 years to 3 years to fill out the extension of my rent.
No problem. Anyone else that would speak in favor? If not, anyone here that would speak in opposition to this request? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Are there questions of council? Okay. Item 22-16-48, I make a motion to approve, and we do not have a limitation on this. The applicant has requested it to be extended to the end of her lease to coincide. Since we don't have since now an open-ended special land use permit, I'd see no reason to even have that in the motion. So I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and second to approve item 22-16-48. Are there any additional questions or comments as relates to this item renewal? Thank you. Not hearing any. All of those in favor of adopting this item, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome.
We'll move on. I'm going to read items F and G, which are the items referring to the public hearing concerning the rezoning that we discussed on Thursday night. I would like to just reiterate our plan and our request of our audience concerning this hearing. Because there are two items that are interrelated, our time will be extended to where we will have 2 hours rather than 1. The applicant would be given 1 hour for presentation. Then any speaker that would speak, whether it be in opposition or in favor, would be given 5 minutes each. Please understand, we've already heard the presentation by Mr. Bart Boyd, and we appreciate that. If there is new information, and let me reiterate, please, if there is new information, we welcome you to the podium. If this is information that we have already heard, in respect to all council, mayor, and the public's time, please do not repeat that. We will have to stop you if you do that, and we don't want to use the gavel. I'm not a gavel person, as I said on Thursday night. I just ask that you respect one another in your comments. Let's keep everything above board. Be professional and realize that we are all residents of this community, and we want to act like that. Okay? If there are no questions concerning that, then we will start the time with reading the two items, and then we'll give instruction as to when time starts. Item 22-16-49. Is everyone clear on that? Okay. Item 22-16-49. Hold a public hearing and consider a request for a change in zoning from IH Heavy Industrial to IH Heavy Industrial District with a special land use permit for mining and quarrying for 151.96 acres plus or minus, located parcel 01890250021, land lots 189, District 2, Section 5, Parcel 21, application made by Bart L. Boyd. And then item 22-16-50, hold a public hearing, consider a request for change in zoning from IL Light Industrial to IH Heavy Industrial District with a special land use permit for mining and quarrying for 45.55 acres plus or minus, located parcel number 01900250009 in land lot 190, District 2, Section 5, Parcel 9, application made by Mr. Bart L. Boyd. Madam Clerk, are we ready to start the time? Okay. Whomever is here to speak, and I'm assuming, Mr. Boyd, that would be you to begin. Come forward, please state your name and address for the record, and we welcome your comment.
My sheet is submitted. Bart L. Boyd, my address is 1709 R. Glass Court, Kennesaw, Georgia. I want to tell you I appreciate your time this evening and consideration. At this time, short of giving my presentation again, I really don't have any other further information relative to the project, and would like to maybe reserve that time for questions if there are any new issues or concerns that arise about the project.
Mr. Boyd, let me thank you for reminding me of that, because my instruction to the council was that, as we did on Thursday night, that we please reserve our questions until all of those that would like to speak have been allowed to speak, and then I would request that you stay so that if there's a specific question that the councilor may or may have for you, that you could come back to the podium for that purpose. Thank you very much, Mr. Boyd.
Thank you.
Whom else is here tonight that would like to speak with new information concerning this application? Is there anyone here to speak tonight with new information in favor of this application? Okay. With that having been said, is there anyone here then that would come to speak in opposition of this application? If so, with new information, please come forward.
My name is Jack Baggett. I live at 8570 Andy Mountain Court, Villa Rica, Georgia, Douglas County. I'm really concerned about conflict of interest. There's a lot of these people here. Do they work for this man, or do they offer the job, or conflict of interest? Do they have a contract to sell their property if this is passed on? See, that bothers me, and I think that ought to be took under consideration. If somebody's part, do they have a conflict of interest? And I hope y'all look into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baggett. Appreciate your comments. Someone else to come and speak in opposition?
My name is Nathan Allen Teal. I reside at 2204 South Flat Rock Road. I would like to yield my time to David Ye and the presentation that he has for new information brought to light.
Brandon? I don't know, gentlemen, that would be necessary since Mr. Ye has not spoken yet. He's not been given his 5 minutes, so we'll welcome him to come forward with any new information. No problem. Whomever is next, please come forward.
My name is David McGuire. I live at 6830 North Baggett Road. I'd also like to yield my time to Mr. Yeh. We have a very close relationship.
So agreed, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
Hi, my name is David Ye, 6830 North Baggett Road. I was here last meeting and trying to express my concerns, and I also did a bit more research with information that Mr. Boyd brought last time. So I think I submitted a presentation of PowerPoint slides to the council earlier today, and if you would just follow me on that, and we could go through that.
Staff, do we have that on our computers, or it's a separate sheet? So look for that, please.
Yeah, it's a separate packet.
Go ahead.
So if you would turn to the first page, and we'll start from there. It'll show a satellite photo and also a terrain map of both the vicinity of the Bluegrass Quarry and the proposed new quarry. Like I mentioned before, the granite vein stems in Douglas County stems from Stone Mountain, goes east to west through the county. And what I wasn't able to mention was it actually peaks at 78 and the railroad tracks is actually built on top of the granite. And so it divides the north and south of the county and the city, sloping from the 78 and the railroad track down north and also down south. And so regarding Bluegrass Quarry, actually, since it's on the other side of the peak, the digging that it has been doing for the past 30, 40 years hasn't really affected anybody because it's on the other side of the water table where there wasn't a lot of residents on that side. And also, if you could see on the map on the right-hand side, the terrain map, you'll see there's actually a creek that separates the current residential area from the quarry. And that divide changes the terrain and also the behavior of any explosive activity or ordnance activity. And it also won't affect the water table because of the terrain. It goes down. That means it's not on the residents won't be on a downhill from that quarry. However, on the new quarry, it's a different story because there's actually, if you could take a look at the terrain map on the right, you'll see that it's on a higher elevation. There's actually a bulge in their property, in their proposed quarry. And on that bulge, there's not only 2 streams that start right there, and the proposed digging depth of more than probably 300, 400 feet will definitely go into the local water table. And that's already lower than what we're having, lower than our current well depth. And as you can see from that terrain map, it's also at a higher elevation of any place else at that surrounding it. And so there's no divide like the south side of the tracks. And now I turn to page 2 of it shows the map and also of Kennesaw Quarry that Mr. Boyd mentions. You'll see on the left-hand side, it shows Vulcan Material Quarry. And you'll see sort of in that map, it has a red tinted area. That's the city limits of Kennesaw. And contrary to what Mr. Boyd mentioned, that quarry is not in the city limits. And as you can see from that map as well, that quarry is next to I-75, so there's no local traffic issues arising from that quarry because it all goes through the highway. And also there's Highway 41 right in the vicinity. So 2 major highways take up all the traffic from that side. Now on the third slide, it shows a picture of Norcross city limits and the vicinity of the Vulcan Material Quarry in Norcross. On the left-hand side, you'll see the map, the Norcross city limits map, and you'll see that the Vulcan Quarry is actually outside the city limits as well, contrary to what Mr. Boyd said last time, has been mentioning. And as you can see from the map on the right-hand side, the Google map, it'll also show that the quarry is right next to I-85, so there's minimal local traffic that travels on that road off from the quarry. Now the fourth one with the slide with the Lithonia Quarry actually concerns me more because it's more similar to our situation. Lithonia is established in 1856, and till this day, the city area covers less than 1 mile, and it has about 2,000 people in population. The reason why I want to bring this quarry up is because, as Mr. Boyd mentioned, there's 5 quarries within the 3-mile radius of that city. It chokes off the growth of the city to the right-hand side. So it's choked off to the left by Conyers as well. And then there's a I-20 corridor that runs through there. So that city is pretty much stagnant in the future because of the existence and the position of the quarry. And also I want to show you on the following slide, it shows the Columbus Quarry that Mr. Boyd also mentioned, which has 3 quarries in the city limits. I just want to give you a little context. First of all, those 3 quarries are about 8 miles away from city center. That's one thing. And the second thing is, even though those 3 quarries are in the city limits, city of Columbus is the same size as the Douglas County, has the same area as Douglas County. It's not a small city. And you can see the location of those quarries. They're away from the populated area in close to the county limits, basically, if we put it in the Douglas County situation. And so, I mean, and also, Mr. Boyd again mentioned the Augusta situation where it had 3 quarries on the next slide. You'll see actually 2 of the quarries is closer to Evans, Georgia than it is to Augusta. And it's at least 6 miles from downtown, and it's also outside the city limits of Evans. The only quarry that's actually in the city of Augusta, as you can see on the photo on the right, is about almost 5 miles away from downtown. And as you can see from the markers I put in the map, the downtown is actually down south, 5 miles away from where the quarry is, away from populated area, away from potential developing city centers. It's closer to the river than anything else. So now finally, I want to talk to you about Douglasville. As you can see in the next slide, I have the city of Douglasville marked and also the distance marked. Right now, Bluegrass Quarry stands about a bit more than 2 miles away from downtown Douglasville, I mean this building here. And the proposed quarry is actually less than 2 miles from this building. So I want to bring into a context of what I showed you and what Mr. Boyd actually mentioned, how different it is to what he has already mentioned. And also, let's take an example of Lithonia. It's choked off by multiple quarries, and it's going to stay that way. And also, I forgot to bring up Lithia Springs, but Lithia Springs isn't even a city, and it's next to I-20, so, you know, I chose not to do that. So now, I also mentioned that Bellwood Quarry cost the city of Atlanta $300 million to actually improve so that it'll become a reservoir and a park. But it actually cost the city of Atlanta $40 million just to acquire it. And this is a decision that the city is going to have to make in the future. Because once you give out this permit, it's hard to pull the permit. And you're going to have to pay out at a certain time to buy the operation from Mr. Boyd or Bluegrass. And you already have Bluegrass there. That means you're going to have to buy out both of them once you realize that the quarries are no longer available, are no longer suitable for downtown. And I also looked up something else in the from the state of Georgia regulation, is that Mr. Boyd said there was a reclamation bond required by the state, but it only actually requires the requires the permittee $2,500 per acre of reclamation bond, which with the 200-acre proposal that Mr. Boyd is trying to apply for, that means about $500,000 total of a bond. And when you compare it to how much money past cities and things that they have to do you really think that $500,000 in bond is really going to be enough to reclaim that land once they're done with the operation? And also, Mr. Boyd repeatedly mentioned zero-sum situation. I mean, I haven't done business quite as long as he has, but I haven't heard of a situation where you try to establish a business right across the street just to undercut his competition, you know, and call it a different business model. He keeps on mentioning 2 McDonald's across from each other won't increase demand. But what he fails to mention is the promotion and the competition between the two will attract demand away from other facilities nearby, such as the Lithia Springs facility, or even the one in Kennesaw, or maybe the one in Norcross. Because as he is correct, these things are freight sensitive. Means it's not as long as you have the lower price, total cost, people will come to you. So that's what you have to think about. There is no such thing as a zero-sum game in business. And I want to give you an example of that as well. Arby's introduced a venison burger about 2 months ago. There was only one Arby's in Atlanta that offered it, but people were willing to drive 2 hours just to try it out. Do you think that's not going to happen in this situation? If there was competition and different price differences and cost differences for all the contractors and project managers, when it adds up $1 million for the projects? Now, the next page, I'd like to talk to you about the standards for special use permit approval that I pulled off from the city ordinances. I'll just go through each one of them one at a time. The first one talks about, is the special use consistent with the current zoning? Well, of the 3 applications by Mr. Boyd, one of them is to change the 46 acres from a light industrial to a heavy industrial. I don't think that is allowed right currently by the zoning. So that's one threshold and hurdle that he has to go through first. And now, the second one is the street access adequate to serve as special use? And I like to say no to that, as it's evident by all the residents surrounding and all the businesses already affected by the traffic, commuting traffic that goes through West Strickland every day. And they also have to cross, and keep in mind that all these truck traffic will have to cross the unsignaled the railroad cross, closest to Highway 5. And I'll see the increased truck traffic across the railroad also means more time for emergency vehicle to get through the north part of the railroad tracks because of that. And that's something you also have to keep in mind as this part of the inquisition. D, I don't think there's going to be as much impact as the other ones. But E, the adverse effects such as noise, light, glare, or odor. Let me remind you that the regulations that they keep talking about is actually not regulations meant to protect our quality of life. It's meant as a safety standard for operating of the mine only. It's just like our car emission standards where it's meant to control pollution, but it doesn't mean it won't stink and you won't die from it if you take in too much of it. It's still going to be there. So that's one thing you have to keep in mind. And as to one of the council members mentioned the complaints, that's why there's not enough complaints, because those regulations aren't meant to be a regulation of our quality of life. Now, he also mentioned the use of high-tech equipment to reduce noise and dust outdoors, that atomizer thing. Let me tell you, I use that in my factory, and it is only useful indoors. Those things, once they go outdoor, the effects are limited. Their effectiveness are limited due to wind and other outdoor situation and weather situation. And so all that, I just want to, last page is the jobs section. I want to talk a little bit about the jobs. Mr. Boyd repeatedly mentioned the 35 jobs he's going to create. But let me tell you this. Google Data Center in Lithia Springs created 350 jobs in the first phase with $300 million in investment. And they're actually building a second phase now, which will add an additional 35 jobs. And those jobs came without blasting or digging or destroying our environment and our neighbors, becoming enemies of our neighbors. And I want to address those residents who have concerns about trying to keep our college grads at home. Let me tell you this. You can ask any college grad if they want to work at a stone quarry so they can stay at home. Their answer is probably going to be no. That's not the type of job we need. What we need is high-skilled jobs such as what Google offers or a lot of our companies offers that will keep our college grads at home. And
Mr. so, are we out of time, Ms. Acker? 5. Go ahead. Make your final point there. We're finished.
Okay. So I mean, I heard the radio on the radio today. I think it was the president of the Mercedes-Benz USA speaking. They recently moved their headquarters to Sandy Springs, and he thinks that there will be more companies that wants to move to Atlanta. So,
thank you, Mr. Ye. You finished your time.
Give me
Thank
5
you.
seconds.
You finished your time, please. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that. Someone else.
Yes, I have filed my paper at the desk. My name is Gail Blackstock, 1880 South Flat Rock Road. And our family has lived in Douglas County for 14 years, 19 of which have been on South Flat Rock Road. And we are vehemently opposed to this rezoning request. We already have to deal with way too many cars and trucks, which are not allowed on South Flat Rock Road, flying down that road. And we also already have to deal with blasting from another quarry down the street on Bankhead Highway that shakes our house on a regular basis, that sounds like a bomb going off, and shakes like an earthquake. We feel that the quality of life for me and my neighbors will be severely and negatively impacted and diminished if this quarry is allowed in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Who else?
Honorable Council, my name is Ann Jones Guider. I am here both as a citizen and the District Commissioner for District 4. Pardon?
Give me your name and address. Give me your address,
3380
please.
East Baggett Road,
Thank
Winston,
you.
Georgia.
Thank you.
I live across the interstate, and I can assure you when the blasting is done, my house rattles. And I'm at least 2 miles away from the existing quarry. But first of all, I want to just address, and I'm not sure that y'all have this letter. More than likely you do. Where Douglas County Planning and Zoning Director wrote to ARC about this. There are concerns about it. And just briefly, ARC's primarily comments were that we should collaborate with the existing area, the rural area around it. I know a lot of these neighbors that are just right across the street from the proposed quarry. They have been here 100 years. They have shaped this community. They are Douglas County community. And many of them have the names that appear on our streets and plaques in the courthouse. So they have really contributed to this county. So I don't think that we should just discard their comments about their homes, that they have been here for many, many years. And you just always, as a commissioner, think, how would it affect me if I was them? Would you want your house across the street from a quarry? I was tax commissioner for 28 years, worked there 36 years. I can assure you their property values will decrease. And one of the second things that the letter from the county brought out is that South Flat Rock Road has been designated by resolution of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners as a no-truck zone, which may prohibit a lot of the traffic going in and out of the proposed new quarry. And then the last thing in the letter was the long-term transportation plan calls for a corridor to connect this area that we're talking about tonight to Doris Road. And it's identified in the county's records and as the Southern Inner Arc Plan. So I would respectfully remind you, when the county was looking to put an animal shelter, and it was suggested we put it behind the old jail, a lot of people in the city said, oh, no, we don't want that. So we respect each other, and we just ask that you respect the people that have been here for years. There wouldn't be a Douglas County if it wasn't for a lot of these residents in this room. And thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments thus far. Please remember, as I remind you, if you have already heard the information, please do not repeat the same information again. Go ahead, sir. How are you?
Good. Curtis Shipley. I live at 1122 Doris Road in Douglasville. And thank y'all again, council members, for this opportunity. I'd like to specifically address 3 questions that were asked and answered at the tail end of the last meeting. And the problem I have is that the answers, while they sounded good and from a technical standpoint they would work, they're simply not economically feasible and would never be done. Let me explain to you. Mr. Siegel, I believe you specifically asked about noise abatement in the process area. And the answer there was screens that are coated with polyurethane, and certainly that would help abate the noise, but the problem is they're more expensive and they slow down production, thereby adding cost. Madam Mayor, you specifically asked a question about dust abatement. And the answer there was more sophisticated, more expensive nozzles that atomize the water better. Again, I don't think that'll work outside because of evaporation, but more water on the conveyors, I think, perhaps more water on the roads. He was honestly talking faster than I could write, so I'm not trying to put words in his mouth. But bottom line, I will spend more money on water and devices to help control the dust. And of course, we know that's the only way you can control the dust. And then, Madam Mayor, you again asked a specific question about the shock waves that are interfering with an already existing business and his laser machine. And so the answer there was that he would go to Mr. Groover and see what the seismic limits were on his machine. And then, I wasn't real clear, work with him somehow or another on trying to be as inobtrusive as he could. And of course, unless he made smaller shots, I don't know what he could do to abate that issue. But my point is this: all of these things that he's talking about doing require added expense. I'm going to spend more money to handle these problems. The reason it won't work is because, as we all know, he has competition right across the road. And they're not spending more money on screens, more money on water, more money on, and these are not a one-time expense. This is do it over and over again. So if they're selling their gravel across the street at $14 a ton, and they're not spending this extra money, and Georgia Stone comes in and says, I will spend this extra money, well, you know what happens. That puts him at $15 or $16 a ton. And I'm not going to buy $16 a ton gravel when I can go right across the street and buy $14 a ton gravel. So even if he wanted to do this, simply not economically feasible, it would never work. It won't happen. And the last point I'd like to make is, as I have found out about this project the last week and a half or so, I have talked to literally dozens of citizens, some in the city, some in the county, in the affected area there. And some of them already knew about it and some did not. The response that I got from those that didn't know about it, invariably, 80-90% of the time was, well, why do we need another rock quarry in Douglasville? And so from those citizens through me to you as the council members, I would ask the same question. Why do we need another rock quarry? Now, we've heard the positives. We know about the economic impact that it would have. And trust me, as a citizen who has paid property tax in this county for 40 years, I'm the first guy in line to stand up and say, let's bring business to Douglasville and to Douglas County to help us pay our taxes. I'm on board with that. But then if we look at the negatives, we've all heard about the dust, the noise, the explosions, the infrastructure that's not there to handle this heavier trucks and traffic. And so the question then becomes additional revenue at what cost? And I would submit to you that we can do better. Douglasville deserves better. I'd hate to see our legacy be that of another 600-foot hole in the ground. Let us show restraint and patience. There are other heavy and light industrial businesses that could utilize this property and bring tax revenue without being so abrasive to our neighbors. Nobody wants to live close to a rock quarry. It's just not something that we want to do. So I would respectfully request that y'all would turn this petition down. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Please, let's just minimize that if we could, and we'll give opportunity at the end for those to stand in support or in opposition, just as a show of support, okay? Come ahead, Mr. Bolick.
Good evening. I'm Gary Bolick. I live at 9890 Riverwood Court in Douglasville. I have a business probably less than a quarter of a mile from the existing quarry on Bankhead Highway, Abercrombie Transmission. For 18 years, we've had to live with big clouds of dust every time they blast over there, and we have cracks in our floors, and we have doors that are ajar, And we've kind of we know the quarry's not going anywhere, but then now this new quarry is going to be right at our back door. We literally back right up to the railroad tracks. And I'm just not looking forward to getting it from both ends, you know. It's going to be almost unbearable. And I got 9 employees that depend on us, you know, being able to work every day. So I want to just go on record saying I'm vehemently opposed to another quarry, especially in my backyard. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Dennis Chandler, 1929 South Flat Rock Road. Madam Mayor and council persons, you have a tough job to do. I know. I was in politics, state representative. You've got to throw all concerns away and look at the long-term situation. I hope long-term, I hope my grandkids and my great-grandkids is not looking at a 500-foot hole. Can I ask this question? Have any of you seen this land, been out on this land? Inside?
Every inch.
Inside. Let me tell you, if you see some of these pictures and hear all the stuff, it's just rock everywhere. The timber was cut off, if you're looking at West Strickland Street, coming up right there at the bank. There's a big knoll right over there. You can see Atlanta skyline from there. Atlanta skyline. And the reason I'm saying this, I have ridden four-wheelers. I live South Flat Rock Road since 84. Four-wheelers, horses, and run bird dogs over there for 20, 30 years. I walked every inch of that property, every inch. The timber was cut off that little mountain right there about 99. Johnny Blankenship, who's the owner, cut the other timber about 2 years ago. Now, it took about 6 or 7 months for him to cut all the timber. Now, you've been led to believe there ain't nothing up there but a bunch of rocks. He presents it good. That's his job. There ain't nothing but rocks. That's not right. That's not right. He's misinformed you. Just like I said, you can see Atlanta from there. And I beg of you to either table this thing or vote against it. Like I said, our grandkids are going to be talking about looking at a big old hole. They got their profit gone and whatever. But you're going to have to live with it. You as politicians. It's council people. I made some decisions when I was a representative. People to this day, as 25 years ago, people to this day say, hey, you voted for that so and so and so and so. I did, yeah. But please, take in consideration all the people. If I lived on Campbellton Street or Lithia Springs, I'd say, I'd be up here with the Marces. I know all these people involved. All the Marces. My house, their granddaddy was born in my house in 1906 or 7 or 8. And not my house, but my farmhouse. So I know all these people involved. And it hurts. It hurts. So I'm going to yield the rest of my time to Mr.
How much time do we have left, Ms. Acker? Here's 1 minute. Whomever is next, please come forward. Thank you, Mr. Chandler.
Hello, my name is Wayne Groover,
6904 North Baggett Road. I just want it to be, I don't know if this is recorded up here or not, but I would like it to be on record that I've been up here twice about my business and the very sensitive equipment. And nobody from the quarry nor the city has bothered to even come out and investigate. So I would just like that to be on public record. And other than that, I'm going to get off my business. I would just like to know that if done a little studying, it looks like Mr. Boyd has been with Vulcan, and then he's left and he started up a company in Tennessee, and then after a few years he left and went back to Vulcan. And with this project here going on, and I've had an employee been approached about signing a petition from a member, family member of a Vulcan employee, and I'm just wondering if this is another startup company for Mr. Boyd. Is this a long-term project that we're going to partner up with? We're going to make some deals together? Or is this sold? Is this a real estate deal?
Okay.
Pardon me, just a minute, Mr. Groover, I'm sorry.
Yielded 1 minute has been completed.
And I'm assuming Mr. Groover then he should receive his 5 minutes then.
Five minutes,
You
but
sure
I
do.
don't need 5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Groover, walk the line real close so it won't be personal against
It's
Mr.
not personal, that's all. No.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. This information we are to receive tonight should be new information. Most of the folks who have stepped up to talk have spoken before and are stating the same information over again. If we're going to continue this manner for the against, we need to add time for the fors and allow them just to address anything that they want to, because that appears to be what's happening with the against.
Mr. Miller, I would reply that we've not limited those that are in favor of this application. They've not used all of their time. Mr. Boyd yielded his until the end in case there were questions. I don't anticipate, nor do I plan to prevent anyone from speaking. And there have been borderline situations where we've had instances where maybe 1 or 2 sentences have been repeats. But there's also some new information mixed in there, and some of the people were not here on Thursday night. I want to err on hearing everyone's comments if they have a concern, and I'll do my best to minimize that. I did not mean for that to occur, and I apologize for that. However, at this time, Mr. Groover is supposed to have 5 minutes of his own time, so we need to reset that clock. Now, was there something, Ms. Mayor, you would like to
Yes, I was just asking Mr.
please?
Groover just to please not have it to be a personal attack or against Mr. Boyd and his business practices and all of that.
We may
just want
have
to
to
stick
partner
to the
together.
fact. Yes, sir.
So,
Continue, sir.
he's talked about partnering up, being a good neighbor.
Yes, sir.
So what I'm asking is he the one going to be my neighbor, or is it someone else? Who am I dealing with? If my equipment, and I know I'm not supposed to bring it up again, but if it's tore up, who's going to pay for it? That's all I'm asking. And other than that, I would just like to say that my neighbors, I live on North Baggett Road, and I've got a lot of neighbors. We've all been there for 30, 40 years. We're here for the long term. We're not going anywhere. So I would like you to take that into effect or consideration. And if Mr. Boyd is going to get, I would like for him to be here long term also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And as I have stated, we will ask questions, have council ask questions of any of these individuals that have come forward, and we would during that time also allow those questions to be answered by others that might have made the statements. Is that proper, Ms. Littlefield? Thank you. Next. Folks, let's try to understand and respect the fact that we're trying to keep time here, and we want to be legal.
My name's Mark Godfrey, 5840 Angela Court. I've lived here in Douglasville, back in Douglasville, for 16 years now. My wife and I have been at that address right off Cave Springs Road, and my family has been in this county for over 150 years. Now, I got nothing against growth, but I think it ought to be tempered with some kind of common sense. My deal is, and I'm not going to spend much time up here because got other people more knowledgeable than me, but I did a little research and I called around some of the quarries to find out how much output these quarries have, and they said about 1 million tons a year. Well, it don't take much arithmetic to figure out that's 40,000 tandem loads. That's one way out. That means 80,000 truck trips. Now, my idea, what I want to know is, seeing as how the Chicago Avenue, Cedar Mountain, Baggett, both north and south, Cave Springs, none of these roads are supposed to be used for truck traffic, but they are. It's the only way to get to the landfill. They're always used. The kids on Cave Springs Road that I live right off of have to dodge dump trucks and garbage trucks all the time. They have no sidewalks to walk on. So what I'm asking is, who's going to pay for this? He said something about an extra $200,000 a year, some kind of tax or something. That won't pave half a mile of road. These roads will have to be paved every year, maybe twice a year. Who's going to pay for them to be paved? What about the traffic? What about the kids that walk up and down the roads? Yeah, that's my concern, because I am from this county. I care about the people in it, especially those too young to know what the heck we're up here talking about. Anyway, that's all I got.
Mr. Godfrey, would you mind, step back to the podium, give us your name and address for the record. Again, I missed that. I was trying to speak.
Mark Stanley Godfrey.
Mark.
5840 Angela Court. It's right off Cave Springs.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
My name is Beth Johnson, 8940 Rose Avenue, Douglasville, Georgia. And I would just like to thank Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Chairman, and the members of council for letting us speak on Monday night. I know it's a lot of time for you, and I certainly appreciate it. You've heard many opinions on this rezoning proposal, both for and against. But in the end, it all comes down to the application of the law. The official code of the state of Georgia, Chapter 66, Zoning Procedures, Section 3667-3, and the Code of the City of Douglasville, Appendix A, Section 5.06, set forth the legal standards that must be applied in analyzing a rezoning and a special land use permit. The application of these standards to this rezoning request clearly show that it does not meet the legal standards for approval. Specifically, the proposed use for mining and quarrying is not suitable in view of the zoning and development of the adjacent and nearby property, which is predominantly residential. The proposed use will adversely affect the existing uses and the usability of the adjacent and nearby property, and will cause an excessive or burdensome use of our existing streets. The proposed use and manner of operation of a quarry and mining will adversely affect living conditions and the quality of life and property values in the area, and will be a deterrent to the improvement and development of adjacent property. The proposed use is inconsistent with the stated purpose of the zoning district, as mining and quarrying are not allowed as a matter of right in a heavy industrial district and are strictly prohibited in a light industrial district. The proposed rezoning and special use is not compatible with the policy and intent of the comprehensive land use plan, which guides our growth for the future. And one of the most important things in the comprehensive land use plan was to protect our existing neighborhoods from the encroachment of incompatible development, because it enhances our quality of life and it preserves our small town feel and our sense of community. Those were goals that were important to us in our future land use plan and our comprehensive plan. The rezoning is contrary to the established land use patterns in this area. We've already discussed that the accessibility to the site is inadequate. The zoning change is out of scale with the needs of the city and the neighborhood. and the zoning change will constitute a grant of special privilege to an individual as contrasted to the general welfare of the public. There are no existing or changing conditions affecting the use and development of the property which give supporting grounds for approval, and there are no substantial reasons that the property cannot be used as currently zoned. The proposed use will create a substantial environmental and pollution impact to air quality, water quality, and our quality of life as a community. The blasting and grinding of rock will negatively impact the adjacent neighborhoods and businesses. If Mr. Groover leaves, his 20 jobs will leave. I believe the rock quarry said he's bringing in 30, and other people may leave. That's a negative impact. And the use will be incompatible with the ongoing effort to improve water quality and to protect Gothard's Creek watershed. In conclusion, this proposed development is not in the best interest of our community. The negative impacts far outweigh any proposed economic benefit stated by the applicant. The rezoning request does not meet the legal standards for rezoning or special use approval. There's overwhelming legal evidence to deny this rezoning and special land use permit. I'm asking you to please uphold and enforce our laws and ordinances which are in place to protect us all and to deny this request. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Do we have others that would like to speak? Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this application? Please come forward.
Hello, Marcia Chandler, 1929 South Flat Rock Road. And I have kind of a few different little things I would like to talk about. I don't know if y'all got my file that I left by City Hall today, but in it are some pictures that were taken in the Cedar Mountain area by Mr. Alan Kressler, a professional photographer. And he has photographed areas all over the United States. He's been published in Discovery News, the Huffington Post, and National Geographic magazine. And yet he finds the Cedar Mountain area beautiful enough to take pictures of, and as beautiful as any canyon or waterfall or anything that he's seen. And these are only a few of the pictures, and they didn't turn out as well as they look on his website. And his website is alankressler.com, and you can scroll down to Cedar Mountain, Douglas County, Georgia, and see all these beautiful pictures if you want to see them. And there's plenty of plant life growing. Plants even grow on rocks. I don't know if y'all knew that, but they actually do. And I'm an artist, so I'm just into the beauty of the area. And also, I like wildlife, and there are two endangered species that one's a plant and one's actually a mammal. It's a bat, but that are in the area, and that this would, the rock quarry would be destroying their habitat and them. And then also there are 16 migratory birds that use this area for when they migrate here in the winter. And one of those is the bald eagle, and they're protected under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act. And any activity that results in the take to harass, harm, pursue, hunt, shoot, wound, kill, trap, capture, or collect, or to attempt to engage in any such conduct of migratory birds or eagles is prohibited unless authorized by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services. There are no provisions for allowing the take of migratory birds that are unintentionally killed or injured. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was the negative influence, and because we've talked about the air, the noise, and I wanted to talk about the damage to biodiversity. One of the biggest negative impacts of quarrying on the environment is the damage to biodiversity. I hope I'm saying that right. Biodiversity essentially refers to the range of living species, including fish, insects, invertebrates, reptiles, birds, mammals, plants, fungi, and even microorganisms. This conservation is important as all species are interlinked. Even this is not immediately visible or even known, and our survival depends on this fine balance that exists within nature. Quarrying carries the potential of destroying habitats and the species they support. Even if the habitats are not directly removed by excavation, they can be indirectly affected and damaged by environmental impacts, such as changes to the groundwater or surface water that causes some habitats to dry out and others to become flooded. Even noise pollution can have a significant impact on some species and affect their successful reproduction. Nevertheless, with careful planning and management, the biodiversity can be eliminated. And that I just beg you to think about what you're doing. I would love to see a park. It would be a beautiful park. I grew up in Northeast Alabama, and we have lots and lots and lots of rocks, and it's beautiful. And I would like to see something like that maybe happen to this land instead of just, you know, it takes like, what, 300 or 400, 500 million years for the rock to form, and I hate to see it all blown away and blown to bits. I urge you to turn this down. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chandler. Who is next? Ms. Acker, how much time do we have? 16 minutes remaining. Who is next?
Hi, I'm Tiffany Strickland, and I currently live at 297 Amy Boulevard in Temple, Georgia. But my parents live at 1929 South Flat Rock Road in Douglasville, Georgia. I grew up there, and I also have property on Apache Lane in Douglasville. I do have several concerns with the proposed rock quarry. These concerns range from environmental concerns, as my mom said, as well as educational concerns. And my educational concerns are that my babysitter actually, and I know this might be kind of hearsay, but her son works at the rock quarry in Paulding County, and she does a daycare out of her home, and she says that her son will often call her when they're going to be blasting, because she lives 3 miles from the rock quarry in Paulding on 120, and she can hear it from her house, and so he calls her to warn her so that she's not outside with the children, or so that the children aren't scared. So I'm concerned with North Douglas Elementary being so close. I'm concerned about the special needs children, or a child that has autism. If they hear that blast and they're not warned, how that's going to upset their day. Because even if they're warned of the sound, and their day is completely thrown off. If you've ever worked with children such as this, I'm a teacher. And I'm also concerned with the environmental concerns, and I want to know if there have been, I was not able to come Thursday night, so have there been any environmental impact studies done on the land to see what the impact studies, do y'all have those? Any of those?
We wouldn't answer questions at this time.
Oh, okay.
So
I know that the Community and Development Service Director, Jonathan Lynn, did confirm that there have not been any environmental impact statements available at this time. And if there haven't been, I'd like to know why we are moving forward without these impact studies done and performed. I'm not sure who would do those, but somebody not involved with a rock quarry, to see what kind of impact it will have on our environment and how negative it would be. And I do have to say that we only have one planet, and once we destroy it, there's no coming back from it. So let's not rush into a decision before knowing the implications on education as well as the environment. And Mr. Boyd did say a few weeks ago when I was here about the outdoor classroom. I'm not sure what he called it, and I couldn't find when I looked up about something like an outdoor classroom, and like having students from Stewart and North Douglas go to that said outdoor classroom. We do have an outdoor classroom at my school, but it's just benches and you can go and you can have class out there, but it would be nothing that the county would want to pay their student, because you can't walk from Stewart to the rock quarry. That's where I went to middle school, and you definitely could not walk to my house growing up. but you would not just take your kids over there. I understand he said field trips, but you wouldn't go to an outdoor classroom there just to have class, and so that's what I was talking about. I said it last time, and he addressed it and talked about the, if he's here, he'll know what I'm talking about, but he addressed the field trips, but he didn't really address the outdoor classroom and like what it entailed. But I would not see that the county would pay for busing students just to go to an outdoor classroom. So I really do hope that you take everything we've said into consideration and that you do turn down the rock quarry. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Who is next?
Robert Payne, 6716 North Baggett Road. At the last part of Thursday night's meeting, when y'all were asking questions to Mr. Boyd, he mentioned that Southern Railway was wanting to straighten out the curves west of the proposed site, and the query was thinking about putting a spur track in. Has that been a study been done on that, or is that his word, or railroad contacted him? Has he contacted the railroad? It's one of the questions I'd like to have answered tonight. Also, the crossing on Strickland Street in front of Trout's floor covering. I noticed back in the summer, the state had put up a new sign, 33 feet from the white line at the edge of the highway to your track. I talked to a few friends of mine that drive dump trucks, and they say the long bed trucks are 36 feet long. The size of the trucks, is that going to be addressed, what they're going to be hauling out with? And on one of his pictures up here, it showed a beautiful model standing up, looking down over the rock quarry, telling how nice it was. I've lived on North Baggett Road for 50 plus years. Never seen a beautiful model standing on the side of 78 looking down in the quarry we have out there. Thank you. I hope this is turned down tonight.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Mr. Payne. Anyone else? Anyone else?
My name is Michael Groover, 8681 South Flat Rock Road. We own a business there. That's been addressed. I do have one concern. On the back of a Vulcan ticket, when you come out of the scale house, there's a warning label. It says may cause cancer if inhaled. It goes in detail about wearing gloves, eye protection, different things about handling the material. I know dust is supposedly minimal, blasting's minimal. This is very personal to me. My grandfather started the business that we work at. My dad took it over. Hopefully me and my brother have something to take over. If it comes in and we don't have something, what's going to happen? I've got bills to pay. They've got a family. We've all got stuff that's happening. Who's going to pay for that? Where am I going to live? Is somebody going to put me up and take care of me? I mean, I want y'all to really take it seriously, because this is my life that's in y'all's hands. And I take it very personally. And then I see all these people that says vote yes for jobs. What about my job? That's my family. My grandfather started it. Hopefully me and my brother have something to go to, and we can pass it on to his kids. If we don't have it, I just want y'all to really take that in consideration tonight, how personal it is. And I feel like we're being attacked, but I know we're not supposed to feel that way. We're supposed to be promoting jobs, but my job's important too. I really want y'all to pay attention to that tonight when y'all vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Groover. Anyone else who would like to speak in opposition? Anyone else? Okay. If there's no one else that would like to speak in opposition, then I'm going to close that part of the public hearing. I'm going to open the floor to our elected officials and Madam Mayor for questions that they may have of anyone that may have come forward tonight. So they may call you back to the podium for that specific purpose, and I'm assuming part of that would include Mr. Boyd and questions that may have been asked of him. So I'll open the floor for that at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I'll yield to the council members and I'll go last, so we can start with Mr. Siegel. Councilman Davis.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, Madam Mayor. Mr. Boyd, can you come back up, please? I have a question about the North Douglas School over there. Have you spoken with any of the school board or any of the teachers over and principals over in that school?
I have not spoken to any teachers. I've spoken to several members of the school board, including Ms. Rookard, D.T. Jackson, Jeff Morris, obviously, and I have met with Dr. Pritz as well.
Also, I want to make sure those kids be in class and don't be just like a volcano's coming.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of an exaggeration. At those distances, it's going to be minimal.
Do you know the distance from the school to the?
I did have that scaled, and I believe it was in my presentation. If you'd like, I can get my paperwork and take a look.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the essence of time, while Mr. Boyd is looking for that, if anyone has that information in their packet or has looked over that information, because Mr. Davis was not here on Thursday night, if we can assist him with that, please do.
Mr. Chairman, one thing I'd like to point out, I don't know the distance, but I know that Bright Star Elementary looks like it's very, very close to the present rock quarry. I don't know, haven't heard from anybody over there as to any issues, but I just would like to point out that it's a lot closer to Bluegrass than North Douglas would be to the proposed site.
Thank you, appreciate that.
I apologize, Councilman Davis. I do not have that information in this packet, the distance, but it's several thousand feet.
I think Councilman Watts answered my question. And I have, in my absence, I have one more question. I had a caller to talk about wells that they had. So would that affect the well water, either water or streams?
I truly don't believe that it will. In my 21 years of working in this industry, the last several over many sites, I have never once encountered in an igneous formation like this, a granite formation, never encountered, even with the ones that are 500 and 600 and 700 feet deep, an issue where a well went dry.
I have, Madam Mayor, thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Burdanley, Councilwoman, you have anything? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, the gentleman that has the plant, who was that? That has the
Mr. Gruber, the laser cutting.
Yes, the laser cutting. Could you come forward, please?
Thank you, Mr. Boyd.
Sir.
Yes, you had made a comment that who's going to pay for your laser? I guess if something happens, repair it. Okay,
That's all. Repair.
What happens now with the blasting that's going on with the other facility?
Well, what happens is about one out of every 4 tears it up. And we have to have the factory come in. That's about $10,000. It's roughly $2,000 a day for every day we're down waiting on them to come. They're not just sitting there waiting on me to call them. They got people all over the country they service. So, sometimes it's up to 4 or 5 days before they come. So that's basically.
Yes, you were asking who was going to pay for that. So are you?
I have to pay for it now because the quarry was there before me.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, if we bring in a new quarry that's right adjoining my property, they give a figure last week, I think, of 1,200 feet from South Flat Rock Road to their quarry, but my laser is probably 450 feet from back. so that only gives us about 800 feet.
It's the train, because you're right on the train, the tracks there also, are you not? The
Well,
tracks
we're down the hill.
downhill from the tracks?
Yes.
Okay, and that does not cause any problems with your lasers?
No.
Does not? Okay, thank you. Mr. Boyd? The vibrations from the train and the vibrations from the blasting, is there a difference? How much difference would there be?
That is not something that we have yet measured, but I'm certain the noise that is created by that train as it comes through town is far greater than any noise that we will create. Again, you know, we're proposing some significant buffers, especially those along the western side where Mr. Van Zant's property is, and to the north and east where the Groover business is, in addition to the Chandler residential property as well.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Madam Mayor?
I'll yield until the end.
You
Mr.
yield
Chairman.
until the end?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Mr. Miller, Coach?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I had a couple things I wanted to ask. The jobs that you talked about after the 100-plus jobs basically go away after the operation is up and running, potentially the 30 to 35 jobs. You talk about adding those jobs to the community. How many do you foresee of those jobs going to local folks? Because I don't know what those jobs would be and how technical or not technical they would be. So I was just curious about that.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about this particular industry is it's not overly restrictive with regard to needing a college degree to come in and work. Back to Mr. Ye's comments about, you know, the college students, you know, don't want to come back and work in rock quarries. Well, college isn't for everyone. And a lot of the people that need jobs don't have college educations. And so, you know, the folks that we would target are the ones that maybe have the high school education and, you know, maybe not even that at times, but we will train them on site. A lot of them, a lot of the work is, you know, typical general mechanical repair, which is taught in your CCI program that we intend to be involved in. You know, welding, you know, equipment operation, plant operation. So, you know, there's very few of these jobs that are going to be out of reach for anybody. And to answer your point, my intent is to get people as close to this this proposed project as possible to come in and work.
Also was, you know, there is concern about the loss of jobs that
Mr. Gruber.
Gruber brought up about his business. It's been there for a while. So, you know, I don't know what can be done about the potential of his lasers being disrupted down because of blasting.
Yeah, I'll address that. Mr. Groover's, I'm not sure if it was his mother and his wife or someone approached me after the zoning meeting on the, when was that, the 12th maybe? After the zoning meeting, I gave them my phone number. They were going to call me the following Wednesday. I was going to come see them that Thursday, and I never got the call. So I didn't go and just cold call them and you know, stick my nose in their business. I was waiting for the invite that I was told would be extended, and that didn't happen, unfortunately. But I'm available. My phone number is all over the place, and anyone here can call me. I'd love to sit down with them and work out a plan, understand what the issues are, understand the potential mitigating factors, and work that into this business.
Thank you. The last question had to do with comments by Mr. Ye as far as the water table and the depth of your drilling as opposed to the depth of the water table in that area. Could you speak to that?
I can, you know, I really didn't follow the example of this one falls off and this one falls off, yet this one's okay, but this one won't be. I don't really know how to address that other than to say that, you know, there are hundreds of examples of mines that are operating in the state and there aren't water table issues. Now, there is a greater concern when mining limestone, which I think I described in a previous meeting, is far north of here. So I don't anticipate any issues. The state actually requires hydrogeologic studies of limestone deposits for a long period of time before they will give someone a permit to mine. They don't require that in granite. And there's a reason, because there aren't issues.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I actually have if Mr. Ye could come back up. Thank you, Mr. Ye. I appreciate the packet that you put together for it. I see you have a Georgia Tech shirt on.
Yeah.
What we've, and let me preface this, the questions with a comment. I just haven't seen, there's been a lot of preparation on this, but from opponents, I haven't seen an expert or, I've seen a lot of questions, but I've seen a lot of what I believe is speculation. So I appreciate the packet. You put a lot of information and a lot of time into it. But my question is, what is your background?
I have a background in aerospace and electrical engineering. And also, my family has been in textile business for about 70 years. So we have both extensive business and engineering background, because I have a lot of family members that also do construction. I actually have my uncle. He used to own a sand dredging facility in Taiwan. So I'm pretty familiar with certain things as well.
I bet you they don't have very much regulation in Taiwan, do they?
No, they don't. That's why I had to pay. There was one time I had to go to court with $300,000 cash for bail, but that was a different story.
Okay, we'll talk about it another time.
Yeah.
Moving right along.
With the engineering background, I mean, does that have anything to do with geology or what's going on here? I mean, well, I want to know how you know about the.
Let me answer that. Actually,
water table.
Before I purchased the property, I actually hired an engineering firm. I can't remember what they're called, but they're pretty big. Environmental engineering firm out in Cobb County. They did an environmental study before I purchased the property, because I want to make sure that the land and the water wasn't polluted by the bluegrass quarry. And what they informed me was that the way the watershed, because they had to do the research on the watershed for me, because I also asked for water quality of the well as well, and the formation, the groundwater. So what they told me, I just told you. It's the shape of the granite and the slope of the granite that divides the bluegrass from the north part of the railroads. And so, as Mr. Boyd would say, that the igneous formation is pretty much consistent from the top to the bottom. So if there's a bulge on there, the bulge will be consistent all the way down to the bottom of the vein. So what that brings up is theirs is higher. So on the bottom, about 200 feet or however many feet it is underneath that they're trying to dig, it'll still remain consistent. So once they dig below my well, it'll cut off the supply that was supposed to supplement my well water in that water table.
Thank you.
No problem.
I mean, this is an important issue. Mr. Boyd, can you address that?
I still don't follow the logic, unfortunately, so it's hard for me to address that. Again, what I can tell you is that there are a lot of these quarries performing this same exact type of activity in lots and lots of places in granite quarries, and there simply aren't issues with wells.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. My last question is just kind of a general question. I just want to know, of the opponents that are here, how many people have actually talked to Mr. Boyd or attempted to talk to Mr. Boyd?
One in the back.
I'm sorry, I was just wondering, from the opponents that are here, how many people have actually talked to Mr. Boyd about the project? It's just a question.
Not yet.
Oh. Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
What's his answer? Madam Mayor, I believe it's your turn.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let me ask first, if I could. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes, sir. No problem.
Any other questions or comments of council before we go forward?
I skipped before, but now something has occurred to me, because I noticed that we have in the audience a couple representatives from the Douglas County Economic Development Authority, the executive director and the chairman of the board, and I'd actually like to ask them a question, if that's possible. Are you willing to come up, either of you? Name and address for the record.
Good evening. Chris Pumphrey, Douglas County Economic Development Authority, 8512 Bowden Street, Douglasville.
Ron Wilson, Chairman, Development Authority, Douglas County, 8551 Lake Forest Drive, Douglasville.
They will. My question is this: with the work the Economic Development Authority does in the county and in the city in trying to bring businesses here, and the strategy you're currently working on, the strategy, the master plan, how does another quarry in our community fit into that, or how does that cause issues or opportunities?
Sure. So yes, to your point, we are working on a master plan for traffic study and land use study on the east side of the county. And that is born out of a strategic corridor strategy, where we are looking at multiple corridors throughout the county, starting on the east side of the county, then planning to move towards the central part, Highway 92. We've done a lot of work on the southwestern part of the county, then also looking on this side of the county where the proposed quarry is. And so we're taking a look at those corridors for development, and we decided to focus our attention on the east side today because it had most of the pressing issues. Whereas as it relates to this specific quarry, we do see the west side of the county as a prime opportunity for future industrial development. However, we just have not gotten that far yet. So to say whether the quarry is adverse or supports, we don't know that just yet because we have not had the opportunity to study it.
Thank you.
I've got a few questions. I'm sorry. Do you have continued questions?
I think Mr. Wilson had a follow-up to that as well.
Well, we do have a few comments to make when it's appropriate. So if now is the time, it's your call.
Gentlemen, the public hearing has been closed as far as comments. The time that you would have been allotted to do that has passed, and we've closed it. We cannot reopen that according to council. So if you're asked questions of this body, then you can answer those with no problem. That would be the limit.
Mr. Pumphrey, I wanted to know how long you've known about this, the existence of this potential issue, this potential project.
Sure. I was first informed, notified of the project back in mid-September. That was through a happening meeting with Jeff Morris, and we arranged a meeting where we discussed, where I was introduced to the project and really outlined, I think it was referenced earlier, kind of the transportation plan. I think Commissioner Guider referenced, talked about kind of what some of the plans were, talked about what I just referenced for Councilman Siegel as well, about our look at various corridors throughout the county. So it was first in mid-September. We actually did set up a follow-up meeting with our DOT transportation director back on October 3rd of this year, where we had lunch to talk about.
Did you have lunch with Mr. Boyd and these other folks?
Yes, it was myself, Mr. Boyd, his representative, the DOT director, and Chairman Wilson. And actually, after that October 3rd luncheon was the last time we actually worked with them.
You met with him 3 times?
Twice.
Twice, and phone call, like I'm presuming the first time?
The first time we actually met in the hallway after a commission meeting. And actually that was to set up a meeting.
Now, I'm a member of the development committee. Did you actually ever talk to me or anybody else on the development committee for the city about this issue?
I was informed of I was informed of their intentions. I actually didn't even talk to my board about
Who's
it.
their intentions?
The applicant for the zoning.
Not the committee's intentions.
No, the applicant. I had a meeting with them, which was to us a preliminary meeting to hear what they wanted to do. They actually came to us requesting our support for zoning. And so we had a meeting about that. Then the follow-up meeting was in regards to the transportation component, which was our last engagement. To that point, to your question, no, we did not engage. I don't know the members of the committee. I had a conversation with Councilman Adams, the fact that I learned about this project, but that's the extent of it.
Okay. So there was, other than Councilman Adams, you spoke with nobody else about the city upon learning the intent behind Mr. Boyd's project?
Yes, the next conversation I actually had with anyone in the city specifically about the project was probably the date of the zoning meeting.
Now, we have the city has a contract with the Douglas County Development Authority, isn't that correct?
That is correct.
And you are the executive director for the Douglas County Development Authority.
That is correct.
In fact, in 2015, you grossed over $230,000 for doing a job in that position, right?
I did what now?
You grossed, you earned over $230,000.
If my W-2 says that, then yes, sir.
That's what it says.
I don't remember those things off the top of my head.
My final question for you is, if you know about projects and you have an obligation to discuss these projects with the city, why did you not come to the city to discuss these issues prior to the zoning board meeting?
Well, I guess you're stating that I have the requirement to do so, which I'm not certain that is the case. I believe we work with projects all the time. We do RFIs on a daily basis. And to us, that is a project that doesn't, our requirements are to answer to our board members. I'm hired by the board, the Development Authority Board. And so therefore we have how we work with projects. I do not share every project with the chairman that we work on. I only share at the point where it's necessary to be shared. And that is up to the discretion of the director to make that determination.
Okay, I'll let it go at
Thank
that
you, sir.
for now.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more. Mr. Humphrey, did you ever get a report from the Development of Regional Impact Review from ARC?
No, sir, I've not seen that.
Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
And then I will go last.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will remind you, Mr. Pumphrey, that you did meet with myself and former Chairman Worthen
Yes,
about
I
this
apologize.
project.
We did.
Yeah,
we did
so
have
you did
that
talk to
meeting.
someone in the
Yes.
city.
Yes, that is correct.
We had a conversation after I had met with Mr. Boyd and Mr. Morris and Mr. Sproul.
Yeah,
And so shortly after that meeting, you met with the chairman and I at Gabe's. The food was very good.
It was good.
And it's Mr. Wilson as well. So we all had a meeting at that time, just to refresh your memory.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sure the timeline is a lot going on, but you did
The
meet with someone.
timeline does get blurry. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Chairman, thank you, Madam Mayor, for explaining that. The reason I asked those questions
Yes, sir.
is when I asked Mr. Pumphrey the other night about how long he knew about this and how many times he had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Boyd or others, he told me he knew about it 5 months ago and had no other knowledge of it until the day before the zoning board meeting. So I'm trying to get my facts straight on this. And so as an elected official of the Douglas County City Council who pays toward our joint consideration with the
Development Authority.
the Douglas County Development Authority, I'm surprised to have misinformation given to me by somebody who has a legal obligation to confer with us.
Folks, if I might interject something here, this is not a part of our information that we need to be gathering concerning this zoning issue, which we have an auditorium full of people here at this moment. So with all due respect,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to, if I could, keep the questions that we ask concerning to whomever it is, please, to the issue at hand at this moment, and we can go back and discuss that.
Yes, sir. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. I just
Yes.
want to interject his memory because he did meet with someone
Yes,
else from the
sure,
city.
I
He didn't
understand.
keep the information to himself.
I understand.
So the couple of questions that I had, I submitted some questions to staff, and they passed that information on to you, Mr. Chairman. But I just wanted to ask Mr. Boyd if he would come forward so that I can.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Ask a couple of
Floor
things.
is yours, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience again and answering all the questions from the community and from ourselves. We really appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
The couple of questions that I had now, it was touched on a little bit by the Development Authority and some other elected officials that you did meet. You were very, did an excellent job and very assertive in meeting with the elected officials, rather it be some from the county, from the city, and from the Board of Education. And a lot of times when we have developments that are somewhat controversial or may impact the community, that developer or the person that's proposing that project will meet with the citizens. So did you have a group meeting, the same favor to meet with the elected officials? Did you talk to the community? If so, it seems like a lot of these questions would have been addressed and answered, before we had gotten to the public hearing, zoning board hearing or city council hearing.
I understand, and I did attempt to reach out to several, through liaisons like Mr. Morris, who has helped really kind of shepherd me through and introduce me to the folks that I needed to meet. Unfortunately, I was turned down by many. A couple of the successes that I had, one being David Latham, who is probably going to be the most affected business with regard to the new traffic that would come down West Strickland. We sat down, had an hour-long conversation, and he's fine with the project. He's happy to see us coming. He was satisfied with the answers that I gave with regard to how we intended to operate and the mitigating measures that we would put in place to, keep dust down and manage traffic.
Yes, sir. And of course, some of the questions that I raised on last Thursday, one was about maybe taking bluegrass over, maybe just like a bank. I said Mr. Yaki worked for Bank of America, and they've gone throughout the country collaborating those banks and consolidation. So I talked to you about that, and you said if they were able to, maybe you could talk with them. It wouldn't be a hostile takeover, but I did talk with one of the managers. Mr. Miller left me an email and called me, and I returned his call. And so when I asked about maybe collaboration, he said that the numbers that you'd given us for 2040 that ARC provided for doubling of population in Douglas County, that Bluegrass had 120, 130 years of capacity for mining.
Okay.
And so, and that's that. And then the one, of course, Vulcan over in off of Lee Road. So just bringing that to the table. And the tax digest, I asked that question about the taxes as well. And the tax digest, I believe they made $6.4 million last year, but the tax digest was $26,000. So Mr. Siegel and I were on the same vein in that when the railroad comes through, do we get any money? It seems like Norfolk Southern is exempt, and asphalt and concrete produce is exempt, so I'm not certain how much of an impact. Of course, the jobs would be an impact, but the company actually being here, how much money would the city receive in tax digest? Those are two questions I know was kind of muddled together, but the tax digest and then the capacity for the current rock quarry that we have.
Okay. I'll address the reserves position. Again, I made the comment, I think, that was my best estimate. And the only way that I could come to that number is to get on Google Earth, measure their pit, and make an estimation based on the depth and the width, the geometry of that pit.
Yes, sir.
How much more stone was there. Now, I do see that they've got plenty of land to the south where they would have to move a creek, move a lake. They've got the land, there's reserves likely under their plant. So at that point, where does the plant go? Does it go closer to the neighborhoods or the schools or, the other things? Who knows? So I apologize if I'm wrong about their reserves, but really, that is not the real crux here. The crux is that the north side, where we would intend to put the plant, taps into something that they can't and never will. And that is the revenue that would come from selling railroad ballast and to, places that need the silicious material, the granite material, that, neither of the other two quarries in the county can or will ever serve. They're never going to have rail service. The geography simply won't allow it. Somebody asked the question about the rail. Yes, I have been working with Mr. William Tate, who is their development guy. Yes, I do have an initial approval, or not an approval, but a concept where that rail would come in. And so that would include potentially an underpass for safer traffic at North Baggett. They are still very interested in straightening out the rail right there, and that's kind of built into that concept. So that sort of answers that. Again, this is a completely different business model. So whether they have 25 years of stone or they have 250 years of stone, it doesn't change that dynamic.
Kind of not apples to apples. Okay, in the tax digest.
And again, I think I made the comment at the last meeting, that's a hard number to come to because it depends on, where it is considered a final product. So yes, it would go into a ready-mix plant. Theoretically, a lot of that would be in Douglas County. So that tax is actually created when that ready-mix is sold to the end user, because the stone is a component of the ready-mix.
Okay.
And the asphalt is the same way. So it's really kind of a complicated answer to really understand the total tax implication.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The last one's Mr. Gruber. If he doesn't mind coming back, I just want to ask him about his laser machine.
Thank you,
and
Mr.
then
Boyd.
we can, thank
Mr.
you
Gruber,
so much.
Could
This
you?
is the last one.
Sure.
Okay.
Ma'am.
Thank you so much for your patience and for your legacy that you've put into this community, passing your business on to your sons and grandsons' future one day.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you about maybe scheduling time. Does the machine have to run all the time, or can you, if you knew when they were blasting, if you had a schedule and you knew it was 2 o'clock, then you didn't run your laser at 2? If it takes 30 seconds or however long to blast, and that was the time that everyone knew to go to lunch, or can you do that, or how does that work?
It wouldn't matter if the machine was off and we were at home.
Okay.
The mirrors are still in there, and when they get jarred, they get out of alignment.
Okay.
So it doesn't really matter in that standpoint.
So scheduling would not help if you had a schedule of.
Tell me a day ahead of, or an hour ahead. It wouldn't matter.
Okay.
I mean, if I could turn it off, and that would be a very simple solution. But that's it's out of the question. Like I say, it don't matter if you turn the power off and just leave. It still gets jarred.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes,
I don't
ma'am.
know about the laser machine, so I had to
You're
ask.
welcome to come out.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Chairman, are you going to ask how many are for?
Yes, we can do that. The mayor has requested, in a very respectful, very quiet, no clapping, no yelling, just if we could, as the room, for those of you that are here in support of the project, if you would just quietly stand for viewing so that we can see. And then those of you that would be in opposition to this issue, would you please stand? Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much. That's all I had. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Great job, Mr. Chairman.
Before I make my comments or ask any questions, are we okay? Everyone okay here?
Mr. Chairman, I have one more small question.
I'll allow you one more small question, Mr. Davis. Go ahead.
Mr. Boyd, would you come to the podium one more time? And one of the gentlemen asked, how long were you planning on being a good neighbor?
I plan on being the person that is here. I will be the person that you see interacting with the city, with the Chamber of Commerce. If you want to find me, should this come to fruition, you come to the office at the quarry, and that's where I'll be. And, our projection right now, based on the test drilling that we did, we have proven, we haven't looked at the entire piece, but we have proven 60 million tons of material. So in terms of how long will I be a good neighbor, there's a good long period of time out front to extract that kind of volume and sell it.
Also, Strickland Street is a small street. So how would you go about developing that street and into the corridor?
Well, the way I understand it, the West Strickland from the property line all the way to the stop sign where it meets the intersection of West Strickland and South Flat Rock, it's actually wider. The lanes are wider than the other section of West Strickland. Again, I think the ingress egress is adequate. There are no weight limits on West Strickland. There are currently dump trucks that run up and down through there every single day from the WSA. The maintenance shed is right up South Flat Rock there. Watch tractor trailers, dump trucks, carrier trucks, you name it, they're using it every single day. The other issue that someone brought up was the 33-foot clearance sign. I'd like to remind everyone here that all traffic that comes toward or from Hiram toward Douglasville on 92 is directed to turn left before it crosses the railroad tracks. Then it goes down and makes that next crossing just past, I believe, where 92 sort of zags there. The clearance there is 15 feet shorter than the Strickland crossing. And there's truck after truck after truck after truck that passes through there successfully hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times a day.
You've done your study. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, that's all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davis. All right. I have some questions that I have compiled and been asked to ask, and wanted to make sure no one else was asking those. I felt as though my role tonight would be more of a moderator, and since some of these have not been asked, I will ask them, and then we will conclude this. Mr. Boyd, would you please come back to the podium for us? And again, let me thank each of you before I start for your patience, for your respect, for your professionalism and the way you've handled yourself tonight. I really appreciate it. Council, Mayor, all of you. I have a couple of questions, Mr. Boyd, that I'd just like to ask you concerning some of the questions that have been asked that maybe you have the answer to, maybe you don't, but I'll ask them anyway. Just as a matter of buffers, I've had some calls from some individuals that don't really have information as to the distances that you would set your plant, that you would set all of the various components in regards to the distance from their home or from their property line. I've not seen anything with any distances on it in the packet of all the information that I have seen. Now, that doesn't mean you haven't provided it, but if so, I'd like to know it. That would then potentially cause protection for those residential zoned neighbors and their improvements.
Okay, so what you have seen is the master concept plan,
Yes.
which basically shows general areas, rail transportation, processing, extraction point, that sort of thing. And you see the buffer that I've offered to include up the west side, which would be that transportation corridor in the event that the county or the city decides to complete the project that was spoken about here that would connect, I guess, 78 to that Doris Road area. So I say that to say there's a significant buffer there. Several hundred feet of undisturbed is the plan there. So whether that's 4, 5, 6, I don't know what it is now because we haven't gone to the engineering stage.
Okay.
That is a very expensive proposition, and I wanted to make sure that we could get past this first. But what I will say is that it is multiples of what is required. It is multiples of what is required. I believe the current buffer that is required is either 50 or 100 feet, depending on where you are. And in that area, it will be hundreds of feet. In addition, to the north east corner, again, you've got a buffer where the power line runs north and south on that east side of the property. which on the other side is still part of this Blankenship property. That offers hundreds and hundreds of feet of undisturbed buffer that, we plan to leave trees on for, visual screening, noise abatement and such. Okay. And it is my intent all the way on the south side, all the way along the railroad there, to leave 100 feet of mature pine trees in order to screen the view, so that you don't wind up with the same sort of look that you've got at the quarry across the street.
Okay. My intention for that question was, we've heard specifically from many neighbors on all sides, and I realize that the west boundary, most of that is taken up by one property owner.
Correct.
Mr. Van Zandt, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
You have folks on the eastern side, and I'll use Mr. Miss Chandler as an example. They're on South Flat Rock, and I realize that you all are not contiguous. But as far as your offers of what you could do, is that something that may be able to be put together? And I know that may affect the opinions of some of those that are here, possibly in opposition, as to if they could see that. One thing. What about blasting? People have. I realize that I believe the other quarry has been in existence for close to 60 years, and I'm sure that requirements by EPA, EPD, state regulation, so forth and so on, the associations that you've mentioned all require improvements and have over the years. Still having two rather than one, what can you tell me about how your blasting would be less intrusive, if any, on the households and the neighbors?
I think, to sit here and say mine is going to be less intrusive than what is across the street, I don't know what their practices are, what their requirements are. What I can tell you is it is given the utmost attention by me. It is obviously one of the most critical things that we do with regard to safety, neighbor relations, that sort of thing. I'm very well versed in all of the things that you can do with timing, blasting agent, that sort of thing, to minimize problems, and that is what I intend to do. But to say that it would be less intrusive than what's across the street, I can't honestly say that. They may do as good a job as can be done.
Well, let me maybe rephrase it. Are there new methods that you would be able to minimize the vibration and the disturbance to a home today that work? And I think you've explained it as far as computerization and I don't know the terms. I'm a layperson and all that. I've never set off a charge anywhere. But you've mentioned that. Can you actually do that to where it could actually be identified as to who is blasting? You or bluegrass? Very likely. Again, the frequencies that are created, which is sort of the critical thing about how vibration is felt at a distance, is something that we'll monitor very closely. Again, using the electronics and making it ultra precise really gives you the opportunity to manage that very, very well. We will monitor every single shot. We will analyze the results of that shot. We will make changes if necessary to minimize the effects on the neighbors. It is what we will do. And should any of the neighbors have issues, I'll be more than happy to put a seismograph at their house, and we will measure it right there at their structure or whatever they're concerned with, as many times as they'd like or as few times as they'd like, and address those issues individually. Okay. You had mentioned an underpass potentially, and the railroad brings up a totally different set of circumstances as far as access, ingress and egress to the quarry, yes, purpose sir. Of the rock, leaving the quarry by rail, a new method, a new sales component, which you've mentioned to us. Do you have any commitment that you would make to the railroad to enhance them to do that? Specifically for you? I mean, have you had conversations any further than what you've mentioned to us that may be something you would actually have an investment in then to induce them to possibly do those items in order to get that product out?
Yes, sir. Now, in terms of any kind of agreement, we're not to that point yet. The railroad works on the railroad's time, And it's just been kind of a rigorous process to get to where we are. I know there's a lot of coordination that has to happen there. They have been responsive with regard to making sure phone calls are returned and that sort of thing. But, you know, from development, who had to work with operations, then it'll go to the commercial side. All I can tell you is that, you know, in this day and time where the railroad has lost a lot of that freight that at one time they moved around, i.e. coal, they are very eager to find other revenue streams, other freight to move around on their railroad. Additionally, the fact that this property, the Blankenship property, is the key to getting the right-of-way that they need to straighten that rail that they want to do. This is something that is in their design, and I'll be happy to pass along the concept that was actually sent to me right before we walked into the meeting last Thursday. So I apologize that it wasn't in your original packet, but I'll be happy to pass that along. In terms of, you know, any commitment to me or to them in terms of, you know, what is spent on infrastructure, I will certainly have to spend quite a bit of money. It's built into that spend projection that was in the presentation. It is a pretty sizable portion of that to build the tracks and the bins and the things that will be necessary to get those trucks loaded efficiently. So, you know, other than that, there's nothing in writing yet. There's no contracts in place, but conversations are moving that direction.
Okay, one last question. You had mentioned, and someone here tonight, I do not recall who it was, and I had mentioned, I do know, it was Miss Tiffany Strickland, had mentioned something about education. And I believe that in your presentation on Thursday, and I've heard from other people also in education, that you've mentioned this Lands for Learning. Mm-hmm. Is that something that the Board of Education has to buy into, so to speak, as far as being willing to, and is that something that you deed the property to the Board of Education, or do you just make it available for field trips? Expound upon that a little bit for us.
My vision was to, at no cost to the school system, build a facility, a pavilion, close to an area that they could use for biological or natural studies. It's not intended just to be an outdoor classroom. It's for when they want to come study minerals or biology or whatever, they come with the intent of doing that on site in the field. And to answer your question, you know, my vision of that was to build it and basically donate that space, the use of that space, but not necessarily the land. But that's something we can talk about.
Have you had any conversation with the Board of Education, and are they interested in that?
I have had conversations with 3 of the board members and Dr. Pritz, the school superintendent, and I can't speak for them, sure, but it seemed like something they were interested in, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I believe that's all my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Okay. We have now heard both items F and G. I'll repeat the item. And then I will make my recommendation or motion for action on the items. Items F and G, 2216-49 and 2216-50. In the light of everything that we've heard tonight, in the light of the pros and cons, opposition and support for, there's some things that I have asked that I feel we still need further study on, and some things that a lot of other people have asked that we don't have clarity on. So my motion for those 2 items will be to table the item to the meetings of December 12th and December 17th, January 12th and January 17th, 2017, in order to give all parties ample time to investigate their positions and hopefully for Mr. Boyd to come up with answers to some of those questions that have been asked concerning the railroad, Board of Education, things of that nature. My motion is to table.
So we have a motion to table items 22-16-49 and 22-16-50, 50 for January 12th and 2017. Thank you. I have a motion and a second to table these items. All those in favor of tabling items 22-1649, 22-16-50 until the January 12th and 17 meetings?
Madam Mayor, might I ask that that be by show of hands, please, so there's no confusion?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Would you please show your hands at this time if you're in favor of tabling the item? Thank you so much. All those opposed to tabling the item, please raise your hand as well. Thank you. The majority has spoken through hand, the action of hands instead of voices. And so we will table items 22-16-49 and items 22-16-50 to the January 12th and January 17, 2017 meetings for City Council.
Thank you,
Mr.
Madam Mayor. In the essence of those that would like to leave, I will ask for a 5-minute recess, and then we'll come back and complete our meeting. Thanks again for being here and for your comments. Okay, I will call this meeting back to order. We do have one other item of business tonight. That's item H. One moment, folks.
They're out in the hallway.
Item H. Item 22-16-51, hold a public hearing and consider a request for amendment to the City of Douglasville's future land use plan from light industrial to heavy industrial on 45.55 plus or minus acres at parcel number 01900250009, located land lot 190, District 2, Section 5, Parcel 9. That application made by Bart L. Boyd. Because we have not yet made a decision on rezoning, that I would then make a motion that since this item is tied to those, to table item 22-16-51 till the meetings of January 12th and 17th, 2017.
Second.
Thank you so much. It's properly moved and second to table item 22-16-51 to the January 12th and 17 meeting 2017. Are there any questions or comments as it relates to this item? Thank you. All of those in favor of tabling the item, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. The ayes have it.
That's all that we have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Are you sure, Mr. Chairman?
I am sure.
Okay. Thank you, sir. You've done an excellent job. We'll move on to Parks and Recreation Committee. That's chaired by Councilman Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no items tonight under Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to Finance Committee. That's chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Larry Yockey.
No items tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Information and Technology Committee is chaired by Councilman Richard Siegel.
No items tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much. Maintenance and Sanitation Committee, that's chaired by Councilman Mike Miller.
No items tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Transportation Committee, chaired by Councilwoman LaShawn Verdanley. No items, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Personnel and Organization Committee, Chairman Councilman Mike Miller.
No items tonight, Madam Mayor. However, I would ask that we adjourn. Okay. Adjourn into executive session after the meeting.
Yes, sir, to discuss a personnel matter.
That's correct.
Thank you so much. Transportation Committee, I've done that one already. Ordinance and Intergovernmental Committee, Councilwoman LaShawn Verdanley. No items. Thank you. Education and Training Committee, Councilman Samuel Davis.
No items this time, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other business to come before committee for councils tonight from city council members? Okay. City Attorney, Mr. Joel Dotson.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Chief Assistant City Attorney, Ms. Susan Littlefield.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Chief of Police, Chief Gary Sparks.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. City Manager, Ms. Marsha Hampton.
Yes, ma'am. Just to remind the viewing audience that we do not have another meeting this month. So the next round of city council meetings will be January 3rd for the legislative work session and January 5th for the voting meeting. So we will meet back in after the first of the year. And then if you all, before you leave, would see me, I have something for you. And I'll say Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much, Madam City Manager. Would you give the times in the days or City Hall is closed for the holidays for the viewing audience in case they wanted to had something urgent that they want to come to City Hall for.
Yes, ma'am. City Hall will be closed this coming Friday in observance of the Christmas holiday, as well as the following Monday. We will also be closed for the New Year's holiday on January 2nd. So those closing dates for City Hall are December 23rd and December 26th for Christmas, and January 2nd for the New Year.
Thank you so much. Okay, comments from citizens and delegates. I don't know if there's anyone left, but if anyone wants to have something to say to the council that was not covered on the agenda items, you're now welcome to come to the podium and give your name and address for the record and give us your concerns. I don't see anyone. The lone reporter. Okay, staff reports.
Something to say.
Okay, not having any staff reports, then we will move to, I need to request a motion from someone to adjourn into executive session to discuss a personnel matter. Open the floor.
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Chairman,
madam.
did you? Mr. Chairman?
We have, sorry, Mark. Ms. Hampton, the city manager, has personnel items to discuss. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just, if you make a motion, we'll get a second, then we
I
can.
move to adjourn to send to executive council for discussion, executive committee to discuss the matter of personnel.
Thank you. It's been moved. Thank you. It's been properly moved in second for us to adjourn into executive session to discuss a personnel matter. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. This meeting is adjourned into executive session.